Then it's the next one down. Next one after that one.
Brand.
Go scroll down to 30 seconds.
We're just getting it
Wait, did she
situated,
seize
guys.
it?
Give me
Yeah.
1 second.
Okay.
Scroll more. Right there.
Okay.
Wait till she sees it and then click.
Yep, let me know.
Nothing. Just 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
I think I see that. All right, so we're going to start a 30-second countdown to start the show. We'll come back. We'll introduce you, the show, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. And it's Dani, right?
Yes, it's Dani, the Dani Perro Show.
I want to make sure I was saying it right.
You were saying it perfect. Thank you so much. I'm excited to talk to you.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. Welcome to the Dani Perro Show. We're in the home studio tonight. I'm just so excited to welcome my wonderful guest, Richard Lynch. I do want to appreciate Michael Stover. A huge shout out to him as well for being one of our amazing artists. He is such an amazing manager to a lot of artists that he's given us the opportunity to have previously on last month, this month, and upcoming months on the Dani Perro Show. So a great shout out to Mr. Michael Stover, and I'm excited to find out how you got a chance to know him later in the line down the show too, Richard.
Hi, Dani.
Hi, thank you so much for your time and your dedication. For you and Donna to be here today. We are excited to talk to you. And
Well, thank you for saying. Thanks for having us. Hey, Michael Stover is an incredible producer, promoter, just an all-around great guy, and he works really hard for a lot of his artists, and I'm one of them. I'm thankful to be on board with Michael.
Wow.
He has an appreciation for the traditional country music that I play and perform and write, and we couldn't ask for a better promoter and a more of a gentleman that really works hard for us.
Well, I love that. I think that's awesome. So, Richard, we're going to get started a little bit with yourself because besides us knowing that you're a musician, we'd like to know a lot more about you besides you being a musician. I'm sure there's so much, dedication in that involved with your interest as well. So when you were a kid, when did you first get the idea of maybe music was something that you liked, when it felt like the perfect niche?
Well, I appreciate you starting out as a kid because that's really when I was influenced more than anything. My dad
happens a lot with adults. Yeah, I have to start at the very beginning. So
yeah, my dad was an incredible singer, entertainer. My goodness, he played all over the place. Worked with so many of the greats of the 1960s and 1970s, and some of the artists of that era. Bobby Bare and Glenn Campbell and the Osborne brothers and Porter Wagner. I mean, I'm just touching the surface of all the musicians and so forth, the country singers that my dad performed with. And I knew at a young age that's something that I really wanted to do. As a matter of fact, at the ripe old age of 8, I was at the very first show watching my dad perform live, and he was playing in Dayton, Ohio, working with a guy by the name of Porter Wagner. Now, Porter Wagner was on television every Saturday night, and here this 8-year-old kid is out in the audience watching my dad perform with this guy we watch on TV every Saturday night. So I'm blown away.
Yeah, you noticed something with that, right?
Yeah, and so me and my mother are enjoying the show, and I had no idea, but my dad, pointed down to my mom and said, "Hey, send Richard up here." And so I went up on the stage at the ripe old age of 8 years old and did an old Buck Owens song, "I Got a Tiger by the Tail." And as you might imagine, an 8-year-old kid playing with his dad's band, who was pretty well achieved and accomplished at the time, it went over pretty good. So I was bit pretty good.
You had no stage fright at being 8 years old, Richard?
Well, no, really, there wasn't. I just went up there and did my thing, and that country music bug bit me right then and there, and I've been doing it ever since.
So we'll say a little bit after the show, when you got the idea of, being on stage with your dad was something you wanted to do. Was it something that you wanted to continue maybe more with your father, or was it something that you think you were looking into doing yourself as well when you were growing up, like being solo or with a band, or what were you kind of debating between? I know you were young, so.
Well, I would
you
have loved it,
well
and
ahead of you.
I would have loved to just play with my dad. I mean, I was so enamored with my dad, and the man was just so incredibly talented. And and
Yeah.
then as time goes by, and you hit your wagon with your high school buddies, and we're doing our own little thing. We kind of just did our own little thing. Dad continued doing what he did, and then
Yeah.
ultimately I chose the direction to where I did a lot of writing and more of the at that time the more modern country music of that era. We're talking in the 80s and 90s. From that era, when we were playing as much as 200, 300 nights a year, and that's a great memory. But Dad wasn't going to play that much, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. So that was the opportunity kind of where you feel like, I mean, obviously, yeah, you probably did want to grow up with your father. You know what I mean? Like doing more music with him, getting an idea of, hey, this is what I love to do. This is what I would like to do with you. Can you teach me? I'm sure. Did he bring you under his wing? Did he give you like, help or any like lessons or anything, just an interest with your dad?
Well, he did. In all honesty, I was playing in the honky tonks long before I was 21 years old. I
Okay.
shouldn't have been in there. And the comment was, "Well, that's Woody's boy. He's okay. You're all right. He's all right. We're not going to we're not going to throw him out of here."
Your dad's
But
name
had
is
it not
Woody?
been for my dad, I
Okay, yeah.
wouldn't have had all the opportunities, or a lot of the opportunities that I had growing up as a youngster. And then ultimately, it's up to you to continue and create your own opportunities. Dad gave me some opportunities, and I met some people, but ultimately it was up to me to keep doing good and creating my own thing.
Collaborations and your
Right.
songs, and probably were you looking into like guitar or anything at this point too, or was it more just music? Like
Well,
just
I didn't start playing guitar. I didn't get really serious with guitar until about the age of 12.
okay,
So and Dad
mid-teens.
was showing me some chords and different things. But really, a guy I went to school with, Tim Halsey, was my age, and he was real patient with me. My dad wasn't quite as patient with me, but Tim really, he broke it down, and I was able to learn and really excel. And I'm just thankful that my dad gave me the ambition and the determination, but Tim kind of helped me along at a young age to where I can kind of flourish and try to get better on the guitar. So there's the
Oh,
direction as to how it all came about on the guitar end of things.
do you remember the very first chord you got a chance to learn and how excited you were when you were like, I accomplished this? Isn't that so exciting when that happens?
It was. I can remember my very first song was an old Hank Williams song, and I actually could sing
Oh,
and chord and play the chord progression at the same time, and I was so impressed. I was with myself. Now, I don't think anybody else was necessarily impressed, but but I was learning.
because you were learning. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't matter to anyone else. You were learning. You were understanding what you were learning. And it doesn't matter that people try to judge us in the stupid ways that they do. We're learning from it. So
Exactly. And that's how it should be in every aspect of life, occupation, is life in general. Learn as you grow, and always get, be willing to learn even as you get older and whatnot. I never want to quit learning.
very, very true. Well, I'm sure even you today at this time of what you do, whether you're a musician and I'm sure a full-time, maybe dad, or you have a lot of things going on as well. I'm sure that we're always learning. We're always in a certain path where it's always going to be a learning curve, or it's going to be something that you didn't know and then you were just taught something. So it's either learning or understanding, but it's always going to be that way in life.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to say, with you being young and, getting the feel for guitar, and you were looking more into music and everything. Now, the inspirations that you kind of grew up with, besides your dad, was there any other like musicians that you saw on tour, or you wanted your music to sound like theirs, or?
Oh yeah. Right out of high school, I was playing, 3, 4 nights a week, and a guy named Keith Whitley came along, and my goodness, he was just such an inspiration to me. He had a very short life. He left this world way too young, but in the 4 or 5 years that he was actually, recording and traveling and doing what he did out there, I was so inspired with him. I was very fortunate because I actually got to do a show with Keith before he passed away. And another gentleman that really inspired me from a young age would be a guy named Conway Twitty. I was just so enamored, impressed with his vocal delivery and the song choice. And he always sang for the ladies, and he knew exactly what the ladies wanted to hear. And
what we want to hear. Yeah.
yeah.
Almost.
So it's something that those two artists, really inspired me at a young age, and to this day they do. They're just incredible artists.
Well, I'm glad they have great inspiration for you and the music that you're writing to this day.
Well, thank you. It kind of gave me a little path that I could ultimately get on my own, but everybody has to have a start, and I'm tickled that ultimately I've became my own artist. I write my own songs, and of course we do cover songs on our show and so forth with the intention to entertain people with the songs they're going to be familiar with.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it's also nice to throw your independent music in there as well. So it makes them be like, you don't know whose song this is. And they're like, hey, I heard that before. That's
Yes.
me. It's like, just throw them off the whim, basically.
Yes. It's amazing what's happened, because in the last 12 years, I've been playing music. My first paid gig was June of 1978. So I've been doing this an awful long time.
Yeah.
And I got my very first song in a full-length movie here last year for the very first time. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh my gosh, Richard, tell me more about that. Congratulations. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
what happened? How did this all come about?
Well, I'm doing something similar to what we're doing right now. A gentleman by the name of George Buzzio, who has had a podcast out of New York City, was doing an interview with me, and he was really impressed that somebody was keeping traditional country music alive out there.
Amen to that. That's really
and he was really impressed with that, and he asked me to come back on his show again, and then I did the second follow-up show, and it was really a lot of fun. Well, a few months goes by, and I have a farm there where we live in Waynesville, Ohio, and I'm on the tractor doing some bush hogging work, and my phone rings, and I turn the tractor off, and it's George Buzzio. And he said, Richard, this is George. I want to know if you'd be interested in writing a song for me. We're putting together a movie for a gentleman out of Hollywood. He's been a 70-year established stunt man. So he was in Hollywood for 70 years.
That's amazing.
And I said, what's the gentleman's name? And he said, Kim Kahana. Now, I wasn't familiar with Kim Kahana, but I was completely amazed with the concept of what they wanted to write a movie and do a song on his life. So I said I would be more than happy to look up what information I could, and I would ultimately, give him a shot and see if he liked my song. So went home that evening, and I learned all I could. And he was born way back in the 1920s, and he's still with us. He's 94 years young right now, or 95. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And he's still with us to this day.
Is he still a stunt man? That's insane. Oh my gosh.
What a great guy. And at a young age, he walked from New York City to California at the age of 13 on his own, survived the Great Depression.
Oh my God.
Was drafted into the Korean War, was actually shot down as a paratrooper. Oh. He survived that. He was actually shot, and he survived being shot. He got out of the army and survived a plane crash where the other 32 members did not survive.
Oh man!
And then he finally made his way to LA, and he got his first gig being a stunt man in a movie. And he worked from Charles Bronson all the way up to Arnold Schwarzenegger and everybody between, 300 major motion pictures.
Yeah. Oh
And
my God,
and
that's incredible.
as he was beginning to become, pretty notable in Hollywood, he would be interviewed by magazines and radio stations. And I was reading all these interviews with him, and he would conclude, after someone would ask him, he'd say, well, how did you do this? And how did you survive this? He would conclude each interview with saying, I guess I was right where I ought to be. And he kept saying right where he ought to be throughout all these interviews. And I thought, you know what? I think that's the direction I went. So I wrote the song right where he ought to be.
Is that the name of the song too?
That's the name of the song.
I
And
had a
it tells the
feeling.
story of his life. And I sent it to George, and George and the television crew was really excited about it. So we went to Nashville and recorded it. And because I just sent it to him with me and my guitar.
Yeah, like
And
acoustically.
he said,
Yeah.
I want you to get in the studio and record this. And ultimately we did. And they invited us down to Florida to do their premiere. So I
Okay.
got to meet Mr. Kahana and all the movie promoters and all the people in the movie and the personnel. And they had us in this beautiful plush theater. And it was quite an experience, to be sitting there watching this movie, and all of a sudden, you hear yourself on the movie come on the
And you
movie.
hear your
That was
song. That's
quite
like
an experience.
That's amazing.
It
That's
really
really
is.
the most amazing part of all of it is probably also the connections you got from it. Right? I'm sure there were many connections that were happening afterwards, or people were like, oh, who's this? And then your name is also a part of the credit scene, like where
Yes.
it's gonna see.
Yes.
That's also amazing. The
And
dedication.
to actually hear the recording that, in the movie that, at first, because the movie is really good. So I'm into the movie and I'm really enjoying the movie and completely forgot the reason I was there until I heard my music in the movie. I'm like, holy cow, this is really cool.
And can you watch the movie? Like, is it out
Yes.
streaming wise, or more of
They're still doing some
film
pitch
festival?
work and
Okay.
and different cities around the country. It's been aired in New York and California and Tampa, and I think in Texas. It's been aired in like a half a dozen cities.
Okay, yeah, so you could get the idea of like
Yeah, but it has not become a full-fledged public production as we speak yet.
Okay, one of my good friends that are tuning in, Alan Greenstein, thank you again for tuning in. He wants to know, what is the name of the movie?
Kim Kahana, the man who saved Hollywood.
Kim Kahana, the man who saved Hollywood.
Yes,
That's an amazing title.
and
No, it really is.
To think it all started from a gentleman doing a interview on a podcast as to where that ultimately landed for me. That just tells if you stay true to what you do and what you are, ultimately things happen. Just believe in yourself, surround people that believe in you, and it's amazing what this whole world will hand you if you just work at it.
So we were talking a little bit as well about yourself and when you kind of started when you were younger and everything like that. We didn't get a chance to also talk about when you started recording your music for yourself, for your fans, family, Donna, everyone to tune in and get an idea of when you were first recording and writing your tracks as a musician or soon to be musician at this part. What was going through your head? Was this excitement? Was this, scared? Oh my God, would they like my music? Like, how did you feel about it? Just in the beginning process.
I think apprehensive as a youngster would be a good word to use, because everybody wants their music to be liked or accepted or appreciated. So I really wasn't really sure. And there was a time I just, I wrote a lot of songs right out of high school. And then life kicked in, and I'm farming and I'm building. I've got several businesses and I'm playing music up and down the highway. And I left the writing aspect. I let it get away from me. I've only been writing about 12 years.
Okay.
In the last 12 years that actually I made, the adjustment where, hey, I'm going to get back in the writing aspect of things.
Yes.
And only in the last 12 years have all these wonderful things happened to me. Just because I decided that, I'm going to write my own music. And the first 3 albums I did, studio albums in Nashville, I just recorded, some wonderful writers out of Nashville. Billy Yates wrote so many songs for George Strait and George Jones and on and
I
on
knew
and
his
on.
name, Billy
And,
Asia.
and Billy produced an album for me, all his music, and I loved it, and I learned a lot from it.
Yep.
And another incredible producer did a lot of songs for me. But I realized, I can sing other people's songs or I can have my own.
Okay.
And then but I still wasn't really sure as if my music was that good or not. So on my 4th full-length studio album, a guy named Edgel Groves produced it. He's out of Atlanta, and produced the album.
Country.
Yeah, and he produced the album was called Mending Fences.
Okay.
And Edgel asked me, he said, "Richard, we got 8, 9 tracks here, 10 tracks of songs that other people have written for you. Had you got anything of your own?"
Oh,
And
okay.
I said, "It just so happens I've got a couple here that I've written that I think are good. Would you consider listening to them?" And he said, "Absolutely."
Awesome.
So I played them for him, and he said after hearing them, "They're going on your album." So that gave me
That's perfect.
confidence.
Yes.
That gave me inspiration, because now on my 4th full-length album, I've at least got 2 of my own songs on there. And ultimately, those 2 particular songs did an immense amount of good out there, and I got a lot of play and a lot of recognition from those 2 particular songs. So once again, it's building my confidence level. And we have since recorded 4 more new albums, all of which I have written all the songs on there. So
that's incredible. So it definitely starts with you. I don't want to say not believing in yourself, because it was also you understanding how, making your own album works and what you wanted to put out there and what other people would love to listen to. But having a second ear in the industry definitely brings you more collaboration, where you're getting an idea of, hey, that's an amazing song. Why is that not recorded and on your album? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's a second type of response where you weren't maybe interested or knowing about it, and they mentioned it to you, and you're like, okay, now I'm going to have the confidence because I know what I want to put out, and you understand more of, what it means to make an album.
You're exactly right. And there's nothing more gratifying right now in my life than to take that pad of paper and that pencil and my guitar and, put it on my little home recording device. We send it to Nashville. They chart everything out. Yes. We get in that studio with those session musicians, and that little idea from that pad of paper now comes to life. And there's nothing more for me gratifying than to hear my song come to life again, and to have people ask for it. And I've been fortunate enough to have a couple artists approach me now with interest in writing and recording some of my own songs. So it's not just me recording them now. I'm getting some interest in other folks recording some of my music. That's another avenue of pride that I didn't necessarily.
Or collaborations are also really great for you too.
I'm sorry?
A lot of collaborations with different artists. That's also really good for you too.
You are so right. There are so many wonderful artists out there that would love the chance to hitch their wagon with somebody and write a song with someone. And I can think of a half a dozen folks right here in our area, wonderful musicians that's never had a opportunity to sit down and write. And we have since collaborated. And I mentioned we have 4 new albums in the last several years that we recorded. It's because of just that, sitting down and being willing to write and learn from each other and build repertoire between each other, and ultimately a good song comes from it.
And is it you and a band, like you and some friends?
Oh yes, I work with a 6-piece band.
Okay.
We play, oh my goodness, from Texas to New Hampshire, and from and from Ohio to Iowa and all points between in Florida. Just we travel up
Florida,
Bernie Road.
Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the
We,
country places. North
yes,
Carolina, South Carolina.
yes, with a lot of places out there that are are just um, hungry for the traditional country music, and that's the direction that I go. And we, in addition to our road travels, we have a farm, and then we have a big old barn. Pretty much they call it a theater, but it's a big barn that we built and have a stage in it. We have a Grand Ole Opry star once a month, May through November. We'll bring a Grand Ole Opry star, and they'll grace the stage with us.
Do
And
you have that scheduled as well? Will you handle the scheduling for that?
yes, we do. We have the entire schedule. And we'll kick off our 2024 season with a guy named T. Graham Brown. Now, T. Graham Brown had a lot of hits in the 80s and 90s, and he's still out there doing it. And we're tickled to have on that's May the 18th. T. Graham Brown's coming.
Okay.
And on June 22nd, Mr. Ronnie McDowell. Ronnie had a ton of hits back in the 70s and 80s. He'll be with us June 22nd.
Wow.
And the daughter of George Jones and Tammy Wynette, Miss Georgette Jones, will be at our property at the farm in July the 20th. What an incredible artist she is. A 90s artist that had some really big hits. His name is John Barry. He'll be at our farm. I'm sorry?
I've heard of him.
August 10th, he will be at our farm. On August 10th, John Barry. This is probably my personal favorite. I love all my artists, but Jimmy Fortune, September 28th. He worked with the Statler Brothers. What a great singer, songwriter. You talk about an inspirational artist. Jimmy's incredible. He will be at our barn September 28th. And then Dallas Wayne. Now, you may or may not know that name, but Dallas works for the for Willie Nelson's Roadhouse. They're on XM radio.
Okay.
He is a disc jockey who also sings and writes and plays country music all over the country.
You don't know any of that stuff until you know the person. It's crazy. It's all hidden.
Exactly. So he will be gracing the stage at the Keeping It Country Farm October 19th. And the final show of the year will be myself and my band. And what we do is we, throughout the country and throughout the years, we have met a lot of independent artists that are doing the same thing that we're doing, keeping traditional country music alive and recording it. We'll bring a half a dozen of the best country artists out there, and they will grace the stage with us in November 2nd of the 2024 to conclude our season there at the farm.
So I wanted to ask, I know you have somebody, David Sayers, who's calling your name, Richard.
David Sayers? Did I hear you right?
David Sayers. Yes. There's a comment right here if you can see it.
Oh, Dave. Oh, I see it there now. David is a fella from our area there around the Waynesville area, Waynesville, Ohio area. And if you're wondering where Waynesville, Ohio is, it's about 30 miles north of Cincinnati, maybe 15, 18 miles south of Dayton in that southwestern part of Ohio there. And David is an old Waynesville boy who's been known to frequent some of the places we play. Hey, David.
Another person. We're getting Justin Perry, 11-2 Sweet Boy.
Well, my wife makes reference to him as Sweet Boy, and I have a different reference than that. Just kidding. Now, Justin is an incredible artist, singer. He will grace the stage on the farm as well in that month of November.
Okay, so he's tuning in for that. That's incredible.
Yes, and that just gives you an idea. You know, there's an awful lot of people out there that are very talented, quite capable, and don't necessarily get the opportunities that they should. And if I may get wind of them or become friends with them, I'm going to give them an opportunity to be on that stage. So that's something I really enjoy doing.
I love that. And you know what? Same with what you just said, Richard. I give them the opportunity when they're on my show. I get the opportunity to interview a lot of independent musicians around the world that didn't know that they had something incredible to share with the world. Or
That
maybe
is
they were just scared and they're a musician, but they're still putting themselves out there. They don't have an album. I mean, I've had musicians in the beginning of my career where they're still learning how to create an album. And they actually asked a lot of questions where they were like, could you help me? Do you know how to do this? Can you direct me with this? Do you have a great person that could reach out to me like this? And it's all connections and collaborations. And I feel like that is huge in the industry. So that's the reason I have my show, being the Dani Perro Show, because I like to give a platform to a lot of people that don't get the opportunity, especially if it's a radio station that anyone listens to or they know who the radio show host is, but they're only having celebrities. They're only having cooks and, different opportunity and categories that other people don't have. So I give them that opportunity.
Well, what you just said resonates with me very well. Getting back to my dad never knew a stranger. He was just an old Kentucky boy who loved everybody. And I learned at a young age, because he had such an incredible following. And I learned that, if I just kind of learned from my dad, because he treated everybody so well. And whether they knew him or not, they thought they knew him. And if you treat people good and you willing to hug their neck, shake their hand, come out and be part of their life for that hour or that 2-hour show or whatever that they get to see you, it's amazing what a little bit of personality will ultimately do for that artist's career, because the people, whether they really know you or not, they think they do, and they want to support you. But just be personable to people, help people, show people you care, and you would be amazed how that ultimately helps you in the long run.
And I just think it's fun because I also love the opportunity to have a little getaway where I can talk and interview people on the side, because I love to talk. Whether or not I have ADHD, this is something that I feel like I was born to do.
And you do
whether
well.
it's talking somebody's ear off or interviewing, I could do it as a win-win both ways. It's a score.
And isn't it nice though that you don't necessarily do it for the recognition, but when you hear a pat on the back, or hey, nice job, Dani, or even hey, I got to learn about this artist because of you. You're doing so much for so many.
Exactly.
Yes,
it's very mind-boggling. It's actually really exciting because, as we mentioned a little bit in the beginning of the show, and other people that are tuning in as well that didn't get a chance to listen, I recently got you as an amazing artist from Michael Stover. Now, we'll mention him in a minute. But with that being said, he gave me so many artists. I think because of him, we're booked up to we have about 28, 29 artists from him alone. Obviously, you're one of them. That's why you're on the show. But because of him, I'm just I'm blown away, because I appreciate him trusting me to have all of his artists. And I'm excited to encounter new relationships and collaborations and more of having their music on my father's station here on Hamilton Radio, and getting the opportunity to just be out there all over the world for the world to hear someone where they didn't know that maybe their music could be listened to. So I just love that opportunity. And like I said, I'm so excited for you today, especially.
Well, and the fact that you've made a connection with Michael Stover, I can testify he will not send you a bad artist. He will send you a class act. I promise you that.
He will send me the musicians where I want to say they're working really hard. The music is super catchy, fun, loving. And the artists themselves, like yourself, very sociable, outgoing, easy to talk to, kind of know the way around the industry. So it makes it a lot easier that way, in terms of just getting a person that just created an album and they don't know how to interview yet. But I'm their very first interview. There's many different types of that. So I'm sure I'm past that with a lot of his artists, but I still love the opportunity I get a chance to, get that.
As an artist, I'm grateful that there's people like you that's willing to step up and help people. I've been doing it for an awful long time, but that's all well and good. But now I can say, hey, I know this lady named Dani, and you may want to check her out because
That's so sweet, Richard. Don't
Well,
worry. I'll
it's
send
true.
people your way. You can send them my way. You understand.
Absolutely. We all,
That's the networking part.
if we help each other along the way, it's amazing what we can accomplish, isn't it?
Definitely. I want to say thank you as well because we have Christina that's also tuning in. She'll be one of our guests on the show previously. I think she's also another manager that gave us a whole bunch of artists that we're going to be getting a chance to listen to this past couple weeks. An East Coast promoter as well. So she's tuning in. So maybe she'll get some of your music too, Richard. You never know who's listening into their show tonight, you know?
Yes, ma'am. You're right. Big shout out
So-
to Christina.
I wanted to give you the opportunity. We talked a little bit about your farm.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're an MC for that as well. Do you host it?
Yes.
Because you're the one that books for it, hosts it, and probably sets up everything right each month.
Yes, it's a working farm. We have horses and we bale hay, and it's a beautiful setting. It's around a big beautiful pond. It has a wraparound porch, and we can actually sit 400 people in the barn. And there's plenty of parking. It's actually when people come for the first time, I hear a lot of comments is like, oh my goodness, this is how I was raised, or this is like my grandma and grandpa's place, or something, how they make an immediate connection with the farm and the barn. There's not necessarily a whole lot of us farmers left. There's quite a few, but 30, 40 years ago, it was more prevalent than it is now.
Yes.
And a lot of people come and they have some kind of a youngster or a young inkling from a farm, and they immediately are attracted to this farm and this barn because it brings back a good memory of their parents or their grandparents or something to that effect.
Or like a nice country type of scene.
And then they
wants to have all the time.
And then they come for the music, and they ultimately, the barn's almost as big a draw as the music, so it's pretty amazing.
I love that. I think that's amazing. So we talked a little bit about the amazing events that you have upcoming for that. Now, on your website where you have your upcoming events, it isn't mostly just the barn show, correct? It's also you with your upcoming events as a musician.
Yes, I mean, what we do, we'll promote all the shows we do. We do a lot of festivals and fairgrounds, and we'll do some private events, but we do a lot of outdoor activity events, concerts as the weather warms. Starting in May, our schedule really picks up, and it gets absolutely crazy. June, July, and August.
Okay, so your events start in May. Is it when it's warmer?
Well, yeah, on the outside shows we do. We play the Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky pretty much exclusively. And I mentioned earlier that we'll run to Texas and we'll go to Florida, and there's half a dozen, 10 or 12 other states that we go to. This year we will only do a handful of actual road dates because we have just gotten so busy within the tri-state area, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana.
Yeah.
And
we're traveling.
Right. So yeah, but we talk about the farm because it's so close to our hearts, and it's a labor of love. We put in a lot of effort and a lot of work, bringing the artists, that's the Grand Ole Opry stars and everything, to our farm, and of course our band.
I think that's incredible, though, that you get the opportunity to do that. Where did that come from? You were just like, I want to have something iconic and amazing for your.
You're right. I mean, and
it's off a whim, but it's beautiful.
The barn is such an intimate setting that you just, like, for instance, like, hi, Miss Hilda. She just put her name up there on the screen.
Yes, I wanted to make sure we mentioned
she
her.
comes to absolutely every one of our shows there at the farm, and you can actually get to meet Ronnie McDowell or T. Graham Brown or Georgette Jones or some of these Grand Ole Opry stars that's maybe you've been a fan of for 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, and to actually get to meet them and sit and have a conversation with them, to stand in line and buy their merchandise from them, and you can actually get to know the artist, and you just can't say that at every venue that you go to. And so that's what really makes the farm that more unique. is the fact that you know, we get to share our love for the traditional music, but they actually can get to meet the artist that's been doing it for all these decades and years.
I think that's incredible. Also, promotion wise for them, right? You're promoting them right now on your website, probably your social media with yourself.
Mhm.
But if you also need the opportunity as well, you're more than welcome to tag us here at the Dani Perro Show. We'd be happy to help promote your events as well for all the upcoming artists. You get that type of connection too.
Yes, absolutely.
So any way we
And
can help you with that, let us know.
well, thank you. And it's not a one-way street. A lot of times we'll do these shows with I call them my heroes, and they become my friends over the last 10 or 12 years, the artists themselves. And then they'll reach out to us, hey, we're playing a show. Can you help us play in Tennessee or something? And so it's a good working relationship with the artist now. I'm so blessed and thankful that I grew up just completely mesmerized by a lot of these artists, and now I can call them my friend. That's pretty special.
And getting the opportunity to hang out with them too after the show versus like when you go to other shows, they always kick you out.
Yeah.
It's your own venue, so you can create your own rules and make it exactly the way you want to have it,
Well, it'd be my wife's rules.
It's Donna's rules. But I'm sure with that being said, it's also more of, I don't want to say free fly, but more of in a professional state, fun. Country
It really
fun.
is. The sound system in the barn is state of the art. I have a sound man who's also my bass player, Mr. John Haney, and he has worked with some of the most biggest names in the industry, running sound for them. So we're very fortunate to have John in the band and to provide the sound in the barn there. It's absolutely amazing. It's the artists that come there are just in disbelief at the sound in the barn.
We have another amazing person here, Eric Ziegler. He's also a priest or a pastor, if I'm not mistaken. Wonderful to have him tune in tonight to the show. You're bringing a lot of viewers and comments here tonight, Richard. What is going on?
Well,
everybody loves you. This is incredible.
Well, let me just say this. I think people are hungry for real traditional country music. I think people are really hungry for that right now. If you've been an artist if you've been a country fan for a lot of years, you're kind of wondering where your country music has gone. And I want to be that artist that brings that traditional sound back. And I think people are just kind of hungry for that sound right now.
I definitely have to say I agree 100%. And we just got a comment that he's going to put up in a second from Donna. She said, because Richard is the best. But just because you are the best, it's also because it just seems like in this industry, whether it's country or any type of music, they let it die. And it doesn't sound like they let it like live out anymore. I feel like when I was younger, it was huge. And it's like nowadays you don't even hear it. I mean, I listen to the country station all the time, don't get me wrong. But if it wasn't on, nobody would be listening to it. Like it's not always trending anymore. It's weird.
Well, we're pretty fortunate in our area here. There's a radio station called Real Roots Radio, and they have a 3 a.m. and 3 FM stations, and it takes up all of southwestern Ohio and into Indiana and part of northern Kentucky with a really good signal and a footprint for real traditional country music. And they play bluegrass and they'll play, but they're our kind of music. They're keeping the George Joneses on the air. They're keeping Merle Haggard on the air. They're keeping Conway. They're keeping the people that that was the Whalens of our era. For those people that really were the heavy hitters from our era, they're still on the radio, and the people that really want to hear that sound. And I'm thankful that we have a station that understands the need for that.
Well, I was going to say another one of Michael's artists, Miss Freddie. When I had her on the show, Miss Freddie, I was just like, oh my God, she's bringing jazz back. What? Again, I feel like every genre of music just seeps out of my head because nobody thinks about it or listens to it anymore. Like it used to be something huge in the, back in the day. So I was like, oh my God, all of his artists are incredible. I get musicians, I get different types of genres. I mean, it's a win-win, obviously, but it's incredible to find out all the musicians of the genres that you play, that you still play, that live on, that you make live on,
Absolutely.
that a lot of people don't really know about. And they thought country music was dying and jazz music is dying and blues music is dying.
And that's where we owe you a whole world of thanks, because you do such a good job at what you do and create a lot of opportunities for artists who wouldn't have that opportunity. So big thank you to
I
us.
love what I do. So I appreciate that. Thank you as well, Richard. That's so sweet of you. So I wanted to mention to yourself, we were talking off air, how you met Michael. I wanted to give that opportunity as well. So how did you get a chance to meet the incredible Michael Stover that we all hear so much about?
Well, we met him briefly. I was asked to go to a award ceremony in Nashville, and he was actually being awarded that evening for his promotional skills. And we just he met me and I guess probably 8 or 10 other artists that evening, and we just had a really quick connection. I didn't really spend an awful lot of time with him, but my wife and we had another promoter at the time that really seemed to connect with Michael. And Michael brought another level of access to a whole bunch of people that we wouldn't necessarily ever got before had we not met Michael. And he's one of those guys that he says what he does. He means what he says. He don't blow smoke. If he can get something done for you, he'll tell you. And if he can't, he'll tell you that too. So, that to me holds a whole lot of water with me. I mean, I don't expect the world to land at my feet, and I'm very down to earth, and I realize that things happen for a reason, but Michael really has stepped up, and not just me, a lot of his artists have really had a lot of success, not just in the United States, but almost worldwide. We have a huge following in Europe that's unbelievable, that travels and follows the music there, and we owe a lot of that to Michael Stover.
I think that's incredible. Well, that's so sweet that you got a chance to introduce him that way. For a lot of people that don't know who he is and everything that he can accomplish and do for you is amazing.
Yes, he is. I mentioned earlier, and I'm sure you have younger artists right now that's listening, and if you can surround yourself at a young age with people that support you and believe in you, you will save yourself a bunch of heartache and possibly save yourself a bunch of money and not be taken advantage of. But Michael Stover is a gentleman who can help a young artist. He's not just going to take anybody, don't get me wrong, but if you have somebody with a direction and a passion and you believe in yourself, Michael will be the man to reach out to.
That's amazing. Well, he reached out to us, and the rest is history. We got you on the show. We appreciate your time today, giving us a chance to get to know you, who you are, growing up with your dad, getting a chance to sing when you were 8 years old, having no stage fright. I think that's incredible. I don't know any musician I ever spoke to that didn't have stage fright. So you learned at a quick age to handle what you can handle, and I love that.
Well, Danny, I want to say very much thank you for having me. And to all the listeners out there, I'd like to invite them out to our website. Go to richardlynchband.com, and you can learn anything and everything you want to know about us, our merchandise, our tour dates, our schedules. You probably learn more about us than what you want to know. But
you have merch? Okay, I'm definitely going to look into that. I love getting merchandise from the people on my show. Getting a chance to support you in New Jersey. So
I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you, Danny, for having me.
Well, I just wanted to say as well, we had Miss Darlene Gamble that's tuning in, and she said, we all love the Richard Lynch Band. We have made more friends through the music. You won't meet any more caring and down to earth than he is.
Oh, thanks, Darlene. We love you too, honey.
I thought that was adorable. And look, we still have comments coming in anyways, but Brad said from your number one fan, hi.
Brad Chase, he's my number one truck driver out there across the USA. Hey, Brad, good to hear from you, buddy.
Thank you for everything you do. Amazing to truck drivers, too. They have a lot they have to handle and take a part of. So we're very thankful for that as well.
You bet.
So I just wanted to say, so you got your social media where people can find you. your website, where people can find you. Now, if somebody wanted to listen to your music, which is on your website,
Mhm.
and they want to get an idea of a nice, I don't want to say quick song, but like, what's one of your songs that you'd recommend somebody to listen to if they just heard your name? Who's
Well,
Richard? What song would you listen
if they're just hearing my name for the first time, and you really are a genuine traditional country music lover, there's a song I mentioned. Billy Yates. He wrote a song for me. Well, not didn't write it for me, but he wrote a song that I recorded from him. It's called "A Better Place," and it's country to the bone, steel guitar, just incredible background vocals. And I was fortunate enough to that song was on the indie charts for at #1 for 33 weeks. I don't think that's been surpassed, um, that I know of. Maybe it has, but that's, to me, I was blown away. But that, if somebody asked me, what would be a song that would, kind of show you where my roots and my foundation comes from, that song would sum up, how heavy and how much I love the traditional sound. And song called "A Better Place."
And what would your second song be if you want somebody to understand the type of music that you're singing and what it means to you?
Well, I'm going to say one of my songs. There's, I'm getting to where I got to stop and think now. I've written over 100 songs now, and in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot of songs, but it's starting to be a lot for me.
It is, of course, it's a lot, yeah.
But I have a song out called "Rodeo Town" that is such a fun song. It's just fun to sing. It's fun to listen to. It paints a picture of a guy and a gal. He falls in love with a lady out there in Reno. I mean, it's just one of those great old songs that you just, when you hear it, you're tapping your feet, you're stomping your feet, you're having a great time, you're clapping your hands. It's something you just connect with. I enjoy playing. It's a really good crowd favorite song to play too.
So everybody in the comments are saying American Proud. Can I know more about this one?
American Proud. Let me tell you, I am so patriotic. I love our country. You will never meet more red, white, and blue through and through guy than me and the band members. And I write a lot of patriotic music, and the American Proud song is a testimony to how I feel about our country, and that, so many people that work hard every day and don't seek recognition or fame or fortune, but they're proud of our country. They're proud of their family. They're proud of the fact that they can call themselves Americans. And that's what American Proud is all about.
Wow, that's beautiful. And did this just happen because you wanted to write something similar to you being patriotic?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. When you were writing the song, like musician-wise for yourself, was this something that you wanted to write because you were so patriotic?
Well,
Something
I wrote the song
world?
with thankfulness that Donald Trump got elected. That's, the song's about 5 years old now.
Okay.
I was just tickled that Donald won that day.
Okay.
And it made me a proud American that, there's enough Americans out there that still see the value of a hard worker, somebody that don't ask for anybody for anything. They get it on their own. They have a determination and an expectation of being able to raise a family without being worried about crime. So I wrote the song really as a testimony and thankfulness that Donald Trump got elected. And I'm a true and blue all-American guy who sees things through a maybe not necessarily a wide prism, but I see things of how things are done in realistic life.
Of course we do. Political wise too.
And our great country is in trouble right now, and we need to have people understand how important it is to be American and be proud that we're American. And if we can support our values and our police officers, our military, if we can support the people that support us, I think we'll get along just fine. That's just me.
No, it's very, very true what you're saying. You're making me want to sing the national anthem or something. So patriotic right now. It's like if you just have that in the background or like the flag behind me or something, you know.
See, you're awesome. That just tells me that Mr. Stover hitched our wagon together with people that appreciate what I appreciate. So I'm thankful for that.
Well, here, us here at Hamilton Radio, the station, my dad has as well. He's had it since I was born with me and my sister, and she's 30, I'm 27. So he basically just had this station for us growing up to listen to a lot of independent artists and musicians and a variety that you don't hear on radio stations nowadays. You don't even hear that much on like Sirius XM or like any of the big radio stations. So I feel like eventually we have to give the opportunity to a lot of other musicians because everybody's struggling for the same exact thing. And it's unfair on the struggle in this world. So you just got to give the love where you can.
Well, the music business is not an easy business.
Not at all.
I've been doing it for 45 years, an awful long time.
Yeah.
And of that 45 years, only the last 12 years or so have we had national and international acclaim. And, and that goes back to what I said earlier. If you find somebody that believes in you and wants to support you and wants you to succeed, my wife, Miss Donna, she is my biggest fan. There's no question about it. And she wants to see, our kind of music get heard. And she wants to know that, and she knows if it comes from me, it comes from my heart. I just want that sound, and she wants that sound to remain out there. Now, whether it ultimately, will continue or not is up to the youngsters. And I try my best to influence a lot of the youngsters out there that, hey, you might want to consider listening to Merle Haggard. You might want to listen to old Conway, or there's even a guy named Richard Lynch is kind of doing it.
No, the Richard Lynch band is where it's at.
So, and I do believe I'm seeing some youngsters really kind of, come around. We see some youngsters that's coming to the shows, and they're interested.
You're influencing them. That's an amazing craft as a musician. That's what you want to do.
Absolutely.
And you want to show them the roots of country music, not exactly everything that they're listening to on the radio now, which obviously is still good, but you want to show them where it started and how this can still live if we let it. I don't want to let country music die. And I feel like not even the industry, it's just so hard. There's not a lot of hard country just roots anymore. It's impossible to find besides talking to you.
Well, thank you. I'd like to say one thing that I didn't see coming. I want to say hi to Carol Sandy. Hi, Carol. She's listening right now. But I've wondered, I said, what would it take to get traditional country music back in the mainstream of things? And I was watching the news yesterday, and Beyonce has recorded a country album doing some covers of Dolly Parton, like Jolene. And I have to say, I didn't see that coming. So, if Beyonce can reach out there and maybe establish some interest in real traditional country music, I just became a big Beyonce fan. I didn't think I'd ever going to say that, but it's true.
Well, to go to album, it's a nice type of music that she puts out there. I think she has a mix of everything, though. It's not just country. I don't think it's like pop, rock, like rap or anything. But the country music scene of it is nice. And you're right. Things change every single day. We never know what's going to happen. I mean, today, Beyonce could be singing country. You can get a rapper to sing country. All the people could turn into country artists. We have no idea. So. Right.
Well, I was completely blown away with the fact that she has come out with a country album, and I was pretty impressed. I mean, I heard part of the old Dolly Parton song, Jolene, and I'm like, wow, that's good. Yeah. So you never know who's going to save country music. Maybe it'll be Beyonce. Who knows?
Well, as long as she brings it back root-wise, that would be more of saving it than what's always trending on the radio. But it's still a huge props to her for doing that. That's amazing.
Dani, you're exactly right. Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome, Richard. I have to say thank you as well to you and Miss Donna behind. I really appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to interview today. Stay safe with the weather that's going on as well in your state as well. We want to make sure you guys stay safe and stay secure. But I have to say the audience loves you tonight. My chats are still blowing up at this time. Do we have any last minute comments or anything you wanted to say about tonight?
Well, I just want to say thank you, first of all, for letting me be part of your show. And, anytime, if anybody happens to come to one of my shows and they've happened to have seen this interview, please tell me, because I want to shake your hand, hug your neck, and say, hey, make sure you check out Dani because she's cool, man. She's
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
Thank you,
The
Dani.
sweetest thing you could say, but I appreciate it. I really do. It's amazing getting to know you. I mean, I'm excited for your upcoming music, your upcoming gigs that you have going on at your farm and, yourself touring. Hey, if you're ever around New Jersey, New York area, let us know. We're in New Jersey. So.
We did a podcast in New York City. Never say never. You might see us in New Jersey. You never know.
Well, if you're ever in New Jersey, we'll make sure you're in studio for the interview.
You can count me in. Thanks, Dani.
Thank you all so much for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you guys tune in every Tuesday night from 6:30 to 7:30. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye now.